You are on.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Arizona Eternal Magic Phoenix City Champs. I am part of the commentary team. My name is Jim.
You don't want Mike on?
Mike is like the internal computer, Mike. So
So we don't want that.
you just want Snowball.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I don't know if anybody heard that. But hi, everybody. My name is Jim, one half of the commentary team for Arizona Eternal Magic. Coming to you live from Snapcasters Gaming Expresso. We're here with, what do we got, 43 players, 44 players for the Legacy City Champs for Phoenix. So, round one, we're looking at Matthew Gosler versus James Dudek, and it's Mono Black Reanimator versus Grixis Control? No.
Infect.
Infect. Okay. We gotta change that.
Keep going.
Sounds good? Okay, cool. Alright, so it's like a ponder starting things off for Jim. Matt's on Fetchland Lotus Petal, so standard Reanimator start.
Ooh, might not be Mono Black Reanimator.
Could be red for Faithless Looting or something.
Let's get rid of that. Does anyone have his deck list?
Yep, I do. He's on red black Reanimator. He's got Faithless Looting.
Anything interestingly spicy about it besides that?
No, I mean, Sire of Insanity is the one kind of like spice slot that this deck has. Like, normally it he's got a Tidespout Tyrant too, so he can play that line for like bouncing all the permanents at the end of the game.
Goss is leading with a Cabal Ritual before we get going.
Cabal
Therapy.
Therapy.
Looks like a miss.
Assuming he named Force Will in that scenario, like.
We probably need a big dice for Infect.
Oh yeah, that's true. Get David on that.
Gosser's popping the Lotus Petal for the Faithless Looting. We can see lands, fatties.
It looked like a Chancellor and a Sire of Insanity in the yard.
Dudek counters back with the Glistener Elf. Lotus Petal. Polluted Delta cracks the Polluted Delta.
David, we need can you get a big die for Infect counters?
Yeah.
I'm guessing we should see the Exhume on the Sire Insanity here. Although Chancellor would be a good pick.
Yeah, but Sire of Insanity is super powerful, especially because Jim's start is just all
Creatures and
all
pump
creatures
spells.
and pump spells. Yeah.
And last time I checked, Sire of Insanity can block a Glistener Elf.
Yes. Cool. It looks like it resolves.
With the Daze cover with the Lotus Petal.
Wow.
So no one has a hand. Here comes the Sire of Insanity. Coincidentally enough, their clocks are relatively even right now. And we're working on some Infect dice.
Oh, yeah. What is he?
Gosler should be at 2.
Okay.
Cracks back. The race is on. So at this point, what is it? It's Pump Spell off the top for Dudek and Prayer for Gosler.
It does look like Sire of Insanity is winning this race, though. But the thing is that like Jim is going to have a few blockers in the way of like Noble Hierarch and Inkmoth Nexus, so that does change the math on what Sire of Insanity is trying to do to close out this game.
Gosler in the tank coming in hard. There's the block, like you were saying. A lot of lands for the Reanimator player. mean, good thing about the Sire of Insanity is we don't have to worry about a lot of plays. There's a pump spell, which should be the end of the game.
Yep.
Yep.
All right.
Dudex takes one.
Infect wins game 1.
So, do you see anything special in the sideboard for Gosler that he'd want to bring in?
Let's see. So, he has some removal spells in like Assassin's Trophy, and also I think that he would want to bring in the one Elish Norn as a reanimation target because it kind of shuts down all like the small creatures from Jim's side. Other than that, maybe Magus of the Moon, maybe, but I don't know. That's like. I feel like that's a little bit soft of a plan because it's going to come down on turn 1 or 2, on turn 2 or turn 3, and by then he already has like a Noble Hierarch in play, so he's not going to shut him off mana.
Dudek does have the crop rotation package that you see in Infect very commonly with the Karakas and the Bajuka Bog sideboard. He also has a Surgical and what could possibly be additional counter magic in the form of Flusterstorm or Spell Pierce, but that might be a weak. Day seems good in this. Or Days and Force seem good enough. You can see 3 cards coming out. I think he'd probably want 4 for at least the crop rotation package.
Yeah, he's definitely siding in a lot.
There's 5.
I mean, you saw that he just took out a Pendlehaven, so he's definitely bringing in some number of lands.
7. This is interesting. 8. He is bringing in.
He brought in the Surgicals.
He brought in the counter magic. He brought in the Flusterstorm. He brought in the Spell Pierce.
I mean, in this type of a match, and I don't have experience on this deck playing Infect or anything like that, but just in terms of like the blue threat heavy deck, like there is some kind of like internal like you're trying to play your guys to kill them as fast as possible, but you're also trying to hold back mana for counter spells. So at what point does your hand become like just a little sloppy?
In this point, Jim is definitely taking the control route. Reanimator is easily the faster deck, which means Reanimator is going to be the stereotypical quote-unquote aggro deck in this matchup.
Okay.
If Jim can weather the storm of the first reanimation threat that Gosler brings back, he's probably going to be okay. And I think that's the reason he's bringing in the additional counter magic from that, to be able to counter attempt to live through whatever flurry of storm spells that Gosler's gonna play. I mean, I think that's one of 2 ways he can take it. He could have said he needs to get there faster, or he says he can get there slower.
Yeah.
The Infect player is probably not slower in a straight up race. Are those alphabetized? Did you alphabetize them?
No.
Of course we have
Okay. Good. And it looks like they're shuffling up for game 2.
That was a really quick game 1. I mean, it's kind of like indicative of this matchup to see like one person do their thing and then the other person just kill them over the top. Like Gosler's reanimation target wasn't necessarily the best one that he could have hoped for in that scenario. I think that like a Gristlebrand or the Iona, because the Iona on green is actually quite good against the Infect player. Once they have an established clock, like all they're going to be playing is green spells. Alright, so it looks like a quick mulligan from Gosler. And I think Jim's going to keep. I think his hand is quite good from what I've seen.
Okay, what happened? What did I miss? I was out.
So it looks like Gosler's mulliganing to 5 right now.
In what ways do you think the non-implication of the London Mulligan is affecting Gosler's Mulligan decisions?
Well, I mean, I think that the idea of the London Mulligan makes this deck quite powerful, but in like the way that a lot of people have spoken about it is it's going to make like the hate and the response to what you're trying to do as equally as powerful. So I think it's actually a pretty like level playing field for most decks. I think that like putting like the hype on like these combo decks is maybe in the wrong direction of like what you actually want to be doing. All right, so we're leading on Badlands into Lotus Petal, again playing around Daze, and we're leading with the Faithless looting for Gosler. All right, Force of Will from Jim.
And there's Jim actually playing that control route, not letting Gosler get cards in the graveyard, especially after a mull to 5. That could be his only discard spell.
Looks like he drew an Entomb, which will be good.
But that was my original theory about the London Mulligan. It was just increase the amount of interactive games and decrease the amount of non-games where someone mulls into oblivion.
Yeah.
They can't do anything about it.
It's going to stop the games where somebody just doesn't get to play Magic.
There's the Glistener Elf. There's the Entomb.
So I think Jim has a Flusterstorm in his hand, and this would be really good. Target.
Looks like a Daze, Invigorate,
Flusterstorm, Brainstorm?
Flusterstorm, Brainstorm.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if this resolves. He's kind of pinched Matthew on ways to get any kind of a threat into his yard, which is really the only way that Matt can get it into play.
And with the mull to 5, Matt's just pinched on resources in general.
Yeah, and there's that Flusterstorm.
Pretty much a best case scenario for Dudek with Force of Will, Flusterstorm in his hand.
And the Daze too, so if there is any kind of follow-up, Matt would have to sack the Lotus Petal in order to get it.
So the Entomb was flustered.
It's my first.
Thank you.
Here's our one.
Oh, another Entomb off the top, which resolves.
Hey,
So now we do know that Gosler needs to get his reanimation spell through a Daze at the minimum.
David, this is
So he bins Maggots of the Moon. Interesting call. And pass. I mean, you say interesting call, but Dudek does have double chop in his hand, or double chop in play. Here comes the Infect dice. The Infect counter is real.
it's an unmask that I see.
It's like unmasked Grizzlebrand. And there's the unmask. One card in hand for Gosler. If and only if it's a reanimate, he's probably in a good spot. So we do see Dudek has the Force of Will. So his options are Brainstorm, put goodies back on top. He can Force of Will the unmask for kind of a 2-for-2 trade-off, but he keeps the Daze up.
Well, that's the thing about this interaction is I don't think that Dudek knows how good his Daze is in this scenario because of the fact that if the last card is Reanimate,
Is Reanimate what?
oh, if the last card is Reanimate, then the Daze is no good because he still has the Lotus Petal to counteract.
So he lets it resolve. That last shiny card being the Brainstorm. So from the way he's tanking, I don't believe it's going to be a Reanimate.
Okay, so he took the Brainstorm, leaving the... oh, wow. That was huge. Jim drew the crop rotation, so...
So right now he has Crop Rotation, Force of Will,
Invigorate.
Daze back up. The only way it really gets better is if another blue card appears. So Gosler's hand, I believe, is Grizzlebrand, and he's kind of just drawing super dead at this point.
Yeah, Spell Pierce.
Spell Pierce joins the party. So we have Force, blue card, Spell Pierce, Crop Rotation, and Invigorate, which kills next turn, right? So So Gossler does not know, but he is on a next turn. He is dead. But he is starting to get the mana to play around that daze. So is there anything that Gossler could draw or could potentially have in his hand to get out of this situation?
I mean, not really that I'm seeing on the deck list here.
Sudden Shock would work.
He's flashing back the Faithless Looting, which, and at this point, Jim is just going to let anything that's not going to kill him resolve, so...
Well, Jim has the crop rotation for the Bajuka Bog.
Yeah.
Which he could do at any time. This could be... Oh, the Therapy.
Last card, Cabal Therapy.
What do you name? You know he has... you probably just Spell Pierce this, right?
Yeah.
Save the Invigorate.
Yeah.
Daze is now super low. Oh, he's just going to Daze it. That goes to 4.
It's going to be a good one.
Another Cabal Therapy.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, just Spell Pierce, because the game's over.
You know, Gossler has no cards in his hand. The Invigorate ends the game. Lets him hit the Invigorate. I am surprised by that.
Me too.
I mean, he's still, as we like to say, has it all. He still has the Force, the Spell Pierce, the Crop Rotation. He has him on a surprisingly quick clock, and has a deck full of pump spells.
Yep.
This is what we were talking about with the sideboard plan, where...
And that would be lethal.
Yep,
And the
there it
handshake.
is. Okay, we have James Dudek on Infect beating Matthew Gossler on BR Reanimator 2-0 for the our first feature match of the tournament. We are going to work on a backup match, and we will be back momentarily.